Hello, Lili, and thank you so much for being on my channel today. We connected a couple of weeks ago, and there was an instant connection between the two of us. I very much like the work that you do in terms of the feminine leadership, and you came on our platform at Women in Leadership, where you spoke about your journey and how you created this platform for women out there. So I want you to basically tell the audience a little bit about you, who you are, where you're based, what you do. Tell us also a little bit about your journey with the feminine leadership.
Yes, so hi Ernie, thank you so much for having me. I guess where to start, right? I'm a mom of three. I work in the corporate world in finance, specifically in treasury, and my journey in corporate has always been around finance. I also worked in banking as well before, and so I do have a corporate journey, but at the same time, I do have this entrepreneurial blood that that brought me to create a few businesses in the past. So, in a nutshell, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a professional. I try to do it all, but not, like trying to prioritize as well. So yeah, and I'm very much involved in the space for women empowerment, and I also advocate for mental health as well as emotional intelligence. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I find this passion for women, and that's also one of the reason why I created the feminine leadership.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit what the feminine leadership does. How did you define it, and what are some of the things that you offer? Because I think, like looking at your website, there are so many things that people can benefit from, and you have upcoming events as well. So tell us a little bit more about those things.
Yeah. So the way that I think about the feminine leadership is basically, um, so first of all, just a step back, I offered a lot of mentoring and coaching for the women in the corporate world around ambition and, you know, more so on the professional development.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also part of associations that support women with their professional development. And what I realized is that there's not a lot of resources for women who wants to take care of not just your personal professional realm, but also the women as a whole. So that's when the feminine leadership came, because what I realized is that we often take so much care about developing our network, developing our career, like leveling up our career, but we don't take care of ourselves as a whole person. And when I say as a whole person is in order to be happy and to thrive, one shouldn't just think about what's next in my career, but also they should think about their emotional well-being, their physical well-being, their spiritual well-being, all of the things that are outside of their professional world, right? So at the feminine leadership, we basically offer three ways to connect and to develop. First of all, through speaking. I do a lot of speaking engagement, but also I have a podcast called the Feminine Leadership Podcast, where I will share my story, but most importantly, I will provide a safe space for women to share their story as well. Because I think that in order to empower women and people around the world, we should be able to be the most authentic selves, and we should be able to share our stories so people can relate to us, right? At the end of the day, we have to think of ourselves not just as a woman or a worker, but we should think of ourselves as a human being on this planet that has their own strength and their own story to share and to inspire. So first of all, through speaking, I'm hoping to empower and inspire people to share their story and to learn from each other, because I believe that the feminine leadership will become this ecosystem of women empowering each other. So the speaking engagement and the speaking side is very important, because using our own voice, we don't have a chance to do that very often. And we often, as women, suppress ourselves as well, because we're shy, because we're, you know, we don't feel comfortable to use our voice as much. But by giving you that space to have a voice, if you want to convey a message, that was very important for me. So number 2 is that I do a lot of mentoring and coaching for women, not just in the professional realm, but in the personal as well. And what I mean by that is I've learned a lot about emotional intelligence. And I believe that the future of work, the future of this society, should be centered not just on your skills, but also on your level of emotional intelligence. Whereas if you are able to be self-aware, you will be able to be more aware about the people around you. And so in order to connect with people around you, if you have a very low degree of self-awareness, you're going to have trouble understanding people's emotions and where people are at. And I also believe that emotional intelligence and emotional management is one of the remedy to our epidemic of mental health. So like I said earlier, I'm a huge advocate for mental health. And I think that our society is a lot more reactive than proactive. So giving you the tools to at least be a little bit more proactive than reactive might be one of the tool and remedy to reduce this epidemic of mental health issues. So I do a lot of coaching around emotional intelligence, around positive psychology as well. So positive psychology is the science of well-being. And as we all know, like we live, I believe that we should live to thrive and not just survive. So if we are able to thrive in what we do, that is essentially what's going to boost ourselves up, and it's going to energize us on our daily basis. So positive psychology essentially is around your well-being. It's around your accomplishment, your engagement, your relationships. Like all of that is what we work on when we talk about your positive psychology. So positive psychology is not just like positive parenting. I don't know if you know what positive parenting is. I do practice positive parenting a lot with my kids, but sometimes like too much of it can become toxic. Positive psychology essentially to me just brings you back to that level of balance that you need in order to thrive in your work and in your personal life as well. So that's that. And as part of the mentorship and the coaching program, we also have this group coaching program that is coming up very soon. But essentially, it's about taking you as a woman and first of all, working to know you, like your identity, who you are. Because we don't often take the time to reflect on ourselves. And I don't know about you, but sometimes if you don't have guidance, if you don't have someone who tells you, what is like, who are you? What is your identity? What do you want? What do you desire, sorry. And what do you want out of life? You don't necessarily think about that for yourself, right? So in this group coaching, we're going to go through that. It's separated into 3 pillars, basically 3 months. The first month is about you. It's about your self-awareness. And I often repeat the word self-awareness because it is in emotional intelligence. Self-awareness is basic, it's the key, and it's the first step. So unless you become self-aware, you will not have any direction to where you want to bring your life. The first month is really about understanding yourself, but also crafting your personal branding. And personal branding is huge in the entrepreneurial world, but it's not that big in the corporate world, I find. So thinking about your personal branding, whether you want to have a side business, or you want to elevate your career, or you want to take a step back and take some decisions for yourself or in your family, regardless of what the outcome might be, the first month is very important in terms of your self-awareness. The second month is around self-management. So what is required from you as a person in order to achieve what you want to take action on? And sometimes it's about your communication skills. Sometimes it's about your influential skills. It's about your imposter syndrome. We all have that, by the way. Like even the most successful people in the room have imposter syndrome. So debunking that and working on your limiting beliefs is big if you want to take action. And we're also going to talk about resilience, because resilience, it's a word that we've been hearing a lot since the pandemic. But people think about resilience as something that, stand up, go for it, just continue on, just do it. But resilience is more than that. And especially in the entrepreneurial world, if you don't have that resilience for yourself, you will not succeed. The resilience is a huge, huge part of the second pillar. And the third pillar of the group program is around taking action. So we all know that we can talk all day about our dreams, but if we don't have concrete actions, we don't have a plan, we don't have a coach who, tells you can do it, or, like a group of friends or anything that you can surround yourself with. This is the environment that is robust enough to make it happen for you. And I like to think about the sports performers who always have coaches around them. Even like actors, they have coaches. And if you want to take action on a decision that it will impact your life, sometimes it takes someone to support you and to give you guidelines so that you can think about all the aspects necessary in order to take action. So the third month, I believe, is one of the most important ones, because unless you take action, your dreams remain a dream, regardless of how big or how small it is. So yeah, the third month of the group coaching is about taking action.
Yeah, you said so many good things as I was listening to you, and every time I listen to you, I feel so empowered. So you're doing your job really well, and I feel very inspired. Definitely, when you speak about mentoring, it's you're definitely right. It's always from the corporate perspective, and you're definitely right about personal branding. Like, if you work in the corporate job, like in the corporate world, you typically don't have a personal branding because you belong to the brand of the company, and that's completely right. And I'm also in finance as well, but I think it's important to have a personal branding no matter what, just because it's always going to be part of you no matter where you are in your career, in your journey, in your career journey, basically. And so I agree with you that we all need a personal branding. And I wanted to a little bit expand on authenticity because I think we all want to be authentic and we all want to show ourselves as, as our best self, our most authentic self. Is there anything that you can share with us today about how can one be show up more authentic? Is there any particular strategy or tips that you can share in terms of that? Or even also like about self-awareness, because you spoke about that. And I think a lot of people don't do that job of like, okay, I want to learn a little bit about myself. And I don't know if you can share something that people can take away from this conversation today.
Yeah, definitely. Authenticity is huge for me because it was a work in progress. And what I can tell you very concretely about authenticity in relation to emotional intelligence is that in order to be really authentically you gotta be self-aware. And you're right, most of us are not self-aware because we go on autopilot all the time. Like, what's the next step? What is the next project? What is my next level to attain? So we don't really have time to think about ourselves as a whole human being. So in order to be truly authentic, it doesn't mean that lash out your emotions whenever you can or whenever you want. It's not about be emotional all the time. That is actually the contrary of someone who is emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence is actually understanding if something is inside of you that gives you that nudge that something isn't right and something is contrary to my value. It's the first nudge, and it takes this self-awareness in order for you to understand that your gut feeling is telling you that something isn't right about such and such decision. Especially when you go up in the ladder of, becoming a higher executive or a higher management, there's a lot of intuition in that, right? In the decision making, in whether it is the right thing to do for your team and for yourself. There's a lot of intuitive decisions that you have to take into consideration. So having that self-awareness for yourself, you will actually be able to feel it physically in your body if a decision is right or not. So self-awareness is number one, and emotional management is number two. If you are not able to manage yourself in an emotionally aware manner, you might make really bad decisions. And what I mean by that is we have two brains, right? Not two brains, but we have what we call a more emotional brain, and the other is the logical brain. If you make your decision when you are in your emotional brain, you're gonna not necessarily make the best decision. So in order to calm your emotions down, in order to make the best decision, you gotta calm your emotions down and think critically. And we know that what differentiates ourselves from AI, from all these new technological tools, is our two brain. Because AI will have the logical brain and what we're training AI to do today, but it will not have this capacity to emphasize and to make a balanced decision if it was not taught how to. So I've been a huge learner about neuroscience because it determines every decisions we make in our lives. So going back to your question of authenticity, if you are able enough to be in your emotions, to understand how to make decisions from your logical brain using your intuition, which is from your emotional side, that's when you become the leader who will make the best decision, not just for you, but also for the rest of the team and for your employers or for your for your company, basically, right? And being able to understand that for yourself, that's when you're gonna realize that you're actually in your most authentic self. If you're able to be vulnerable enough, you're gonna be able to be your most authentic self. And also in the most composed manner as well. Because remember, if you make a decision being very emotional, that's not the right thing to do either, you know? But it's also understanding your boundaries and your limits. So when people coach with me, that's what we go through. That's what, you know, that's what we should learn. And we don't really learn about that in school or in the workplace, unless you have a mentor who is very knowledgeable in that domain. Yeah,
definitely. So I do want to ask you very quickly one last question, which is, how do you help the women out there through your coaching and mentoring session to embody their feminine leadership? Very quickly, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can talk about this for hours, by the way.
I know.
So in a nutshell, when we think about feminine and masculine, it's not about gender. So I have to say that in advance. When we think about leadership, we often think about the more masculine way of leading because that was very dominant in the past, right? The strategic mind, the very structural, the very industrialized way of leading, the very hierarchy way of leading as well. But I believe with all the advancement of technology, with where the world is going towards a more abundant world, we actually have to switch the pyramid around. And instead of having a pyramid that is, the regular pyramid, it's going to be a reverse pyramid. So feminine is about supporting. It's about collaborating. It's about being able to empathize with people who you support ultimately. And when you can place yourself in a more feminine way of leading, that's when your pyramid will be reversed. And with where the world is going, I believe that all the jobs that are very manual, that are very, that doesn't require your creativity and all that, they will be suppressed. So how do you prepare yourself to that future world of a more creative and abundance world? It's actually to work on your more feminine, on the feminine essence of leadership. And we go through topic by topic by topic, depending on what you need. But giving you an example, very concrete example, instead of making a decision based on your own analysis, your own finding, working in silo, and we see a lot of that in the corporate world, the feminine leadership way is about collaboration. And I've done a lot of that in my job as well. Instead of imposing changes for change management, for example, let's collaborate. Let's involve all the people, because they're all people and they all contribute in their way. And everyone, all the diversity will bring you so much impact and will bring you so much more benefit than if you worked in silo in order to achieve a certain project or a certain aspect you wanted to make in your company. So a very concrete way is learn to collaborate in order to succeed. And yeah, there's so many more examples that I can talk about. But I'm actually working on the website to include all of that, because I think companies will require more and more coaches who wants to bring on a more feminine way of leading in the future. And at the end of the day, it's not really feminine, but it's more a conscious way of being, because we're all human beings, and that's what matters. We need to remember that. We need to remember that we're all human beings, And we need to balance out our feminine from the masculine in order to thrive as a whole society.
Wow. Well, really, honestly, we can talk hours and hours, and it's always so much fun to talk to you. And I have so much like admiration for you. So hopefully like this conversation was helpful for the people watching. And before we go, I do want to ask you, where can people find your resources? Because I know that you have a lot of good things.
Yeah, so people can find me on Instagram at the feminine leadership, and we also have a website called thefeminineleadership.co, and people can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, which is Lili Trang Lee, and I'm always open to connect. So hopefully your audience will find value in what I had to say today.
Hopefully, yes, and I'm sure they will. So Lili, I do want to thank you again for coming to my YouTube channel. It was so much fun, and I know we're seeing very soon on your side. So I want to thank you again for doing this with me today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And thank you for having me, Irma.